Every minute of every day, over 50 Americans are injured in common accidents. More than 3,000 per hour, more than 75,000 per day. More than 27 million people in this country are injured every year due to accidents. Injuries such as a broken bone during a sporting event, a wrenched back caused by a slip on icy pavement, or a serious life-threatening injury suffered in a high-speed automobile accident. Although many injuries are never reported, many others are serious enough to warrant a claim with an insurance company, or even a lawsuit against those at fault. Those of you watching this video program have experienced an injury in an accident, and as a result, you've made a claim for compensation. As part of the process of resolving your claim for compensation, you're about to undergo what's known as a compulsory medical exam, or CME. It's also sometimes known as an independent medical exam, or a defense medical exam. The opponent in your lawsuit has asked to have a doctor examine you. Your attorney has agreed to allow the exam because in most cases, the judge would likely order a CME. It's important to understand what this medical exam is and what it is not. A CME is not an ordinary medical exam where a doctor diagnoses your injuries and prescribes a treatment plan to help you recover. The doctor who will perform your CME is not even a neutral doctor trying to determine whether you're injured and the extent of your injuries. The CME doctor has been hired and paid by the party and attorneys who are adverse to you. That is, those who are disputing your injuries and opposing your claim. The person or company that injured you, or if you were injured while working, the company you work for, is called the defendant. In most situations, the defendant has an insurance policy that protects the defendant. The insurance company, not the defendant, will typically be the one to pay you if you win your case or if there's a settlement before trial. The defendant or the insurance company has hired attorneys to oppose your claim. The insurance attorneys have hired the doctor who will perform your CME. Their goal is to try to reduce any amount of money they must pay you. Most CMEs are performed by doctors who routinely perform CMEs for insurance companies. Most CME doctors charge their insurance companies substantially higher fees than they could ever charge for treating a patient. Typically, CME doctors are paid well for their insurance company work. They obviously want to keep the insurance companies that hire them happy. The reports from these CME doctors overwhelmingly state that the injured person's injuries are not as serious as the person claims. Typically, these CME reports minimize the extent of the person's injuries, dispute the seriousness and/or long-term effects of the injuries, and usually dispute the extent of pain, disability, and need for future treatment as well. Sometimes the doctor who performed a CME will submit a report to the insurance company that helps support the injured person's claim. But this is an increasingly rare event. The vast majority of doctors' CME reports dispute the severity of the injuries of the accident victim, and the CME report is used to try to defeat or to minimize the accident victim's recovery. For these reasons, it's important that you understand the role of the CME doctor. This video program will give you some simple tips to avoid the mistakes accident victims commonly make during their CME. If you remember these simple tips and work with your attorney to prepare for your CME, you'll put yourself in the best position to receive fair compensation for your injuries. It's important you go into your CME well prepared. The fact that you're watching this video program indicates that you and your attorney realize the value of preparation. After watching this program, you should speak with your attorney so your attorney can give you more specific information regarding what to expect and how to deal with questions the doctor might ask you. Your attorney might have had other clients examined by the same doctor, which would enable your attorney to give you an even better idea of what to expect from the doctor. Another part of preparing for your CME should be a written summary of significant treatments in your medical history. Someone from your attorney's office might write a summary of your medical history for you to study. If you write a summary of your medical history to help you prepare, be sure to show it to your attorney before the CME. If the summary you've written is lengthy or hard to remember, make the summary a little less detailed. A brief outline of injuries or treatments is sufficient. Do not leave an injury or treatment out of the summary because you're worried it would hurt your case. If there's a part of your medical history that you think might hurt your case, be sure to speak with your attorney about it. Should you take written notes into the doctor's examination room? This is a decision you should discuss with your lawyer. There's no hard and fast rule about bringing notes of your medical history and/or your injuries into the CME. For example, if you have a complicated medical history, or if your accident caused a number of different injuries, your lawyer might suggest you make a list or take notes into your CME. Don't make or carry any notes or records into your CME without first having your attorney review the documents. Your attorney will definitely want to review and approve any materials you've written or gathered and are considering taking into your CME. If your attorney advises you to bring notes with you to the CME, don't be surprised if the CME doctor asks to keep the notes or make a photocopy for his or her records. Allow the doctor to make a copy of your notes. The CME doctor will have copies of all your medical records to review in advance, but you shouldn't be surprised if the doctor tells you she or he has not yet looked at your records. As you're preparing for your CME, try to be aware of the little ways that your everyday life is now different since your injury happened. Is there any chronic pain? Is there any restriction of movement? Is there some sport or favorite activity that you can't do as well as you used to, like hitting a golf ball, or turning your head while backing up your car, or kneeling for long periods of time while you work on your backyard flower bed? It's often helpful to discuss this with your spouse or someone who's observed your actions and habits for some time and may have noticed any changes in how you do certain things or how well you do them. Do you have the same amount of pain every day or every time you do a particular activity? Or do you have good pain days and bad pain days? If the pain comes and goes, don't worry. This isn't uncommon for people with chronic pain. Just be ready to describe some recent bad pain days, and don't try to hide it if you've had some recent good pain days as well. The CME doctor probably will ask you to describe your pain on a typical day. It's important to note how this term typical day relates to your exam. For most accident victims, their pains vary day to day. Pains may also vary during different times of the day. If you have typical days, be prepared to give a fair description of your pain or pains, the intensity of the pain, how long the pain lasts, the activities which trigger or aggravate the pain, for example, sitting at a computer, carrying laundry or groceries, yard work, riding in cars or airplanes, and so on. But many accident victims don't have a typical day. These people often have good days and bad days. Their pain varies day to day, often depending on the person's activities on any given day. If your pain varies day to day, don't allow the doctor to pressure you into describing a typical day. Be truthful and explain to the CME doctor that your pain varies day to day and you don't have a typical day. Be prepared to describe a good day and a bad day. Also, be prepared to tell the doctor approximately the number of days a week or days a month that are good days and the number that are bad days. And the point here is simple. To prepare for your CME, give serious thought to how to describe and rate your injuries and pain. Be sure to discuss with your attorney how you'll describe your injuries and pain to the CME doctor before attending your exam. During the exam, give honest answers to the CME doctor's questions. Okay, you've prepared and studied a summary of your medical history, thought about any ways that your life may be different, and are prepared to discuss your pain if it comes and goes. You're now ready for your CME. Of course, you should be certain of when and where your exam's to be held, and be sure to arrive on time for your appointment. If possible, arrive early in order to get settled, fill out required forms, and so forth. Dress casual but nice, like you're going to church or a job interview. You want to make a good impression on the doctor. One of the issues in your case is how you'll be perceived by the jury. CME doctors often mention in their reports whether the person makes a good impression or was cooperative. Don't act resentful or angry. It will only harm your case. Before you leave for the exam, put a notebook in your car and leave it in your car. When you get back to the car after the exam, write notes for your attorney of what happened and what was said during the medical exam. If you think you'll have trouble remembering what happened and what was said during the medical exam, discuss it beforehand with your attorney. You might want to have your spouse or a friend attend the CME with you. Discuss this with your attorney. If you bring someone with you to the CME, immediately after the exam, each of you should write notes for your attorney about what happened and what was said during the CME before you say anything to each other about the exam. If the two of you remember what happened and what was said slightly differently, your attorney will want to know that. A couple of closing comments before we show you a sample of a CME of an injured person. What about the demeanor of the doctor? Be prepared for anything here. Some doctors will appear gruff and aloof. Others might come across as friendly and cordial, sympathetic and caring. Regardless, understand the doctor examining you has been hired by the party adverse to you and your case. The demeanor of the doctor is rarely an indication the doctor's report will support your claim as to the extent and duration of your injuries. In a small number of cases, the CME doctor has suggested that he or she was hired by the injured person's attorney. If the doctor for your CME exam suggests your attorney hired him or her, this is not true, and it's also not ethical. Have it clear in your mind that the CME doctor has been hired and paid by the adverse party and is not looking out for your interests. Can you make an audio recording of your CME? Discuss this with your attorney. Most attorneys will tell you it's likely that if the doctor sees you recording the exam, the doctor will not agree to conduct the exam. Should you secretly record your CME? Definitely discuss this with your attorney before doing so. There are no clear rules in most states about secretly recording a CME, so definitely discuss this with your attorney well before your exam date. Finally, remember this. Some CME doctors claim they watch the injured person walking in the parking lot or hallway before or after the exam. These doctors frequently testify that the limp or slower gait shown in the office exam disappeared as the person walked to or from their car. If you're having a good pain day and walk across the parking lot and into the building without much hint of injury, the doctor might note this in his or her report. But don't worry. When the doctor asks about your pain, just make sure you say you're having a good day, but also describe how you feel and move on a bad pain day. Now our program will show you what happens on the day of a compulsory medical examination. The types of injuries that are seen at a CME cover the entire range of broken bones, soft tissue injuries, sore muscles, chronic headaches, neurological impairments, psychological disorders, and so forth. Many of the cases concern injuries to the head, neck, or spine and related muscles and nerves. Similarly, the causes of these injuries are an extensive array of situations, products, people, and places of daily life. Our program focuses on two main categories: automobile accidents and slip and fall accidents. This video will cover the cases of two people whose stories both begin at a typical suburban intersection. An unfortunate chain of events resulted in multiple injuries to two people. Jackie Olson, the driver of the car, suffered a blow to the head and an injury to her neck, followed by painful recurring headaches. This is often called a whiplash injury. Eric Thomas fell from a ladder while working as a house painter. He suffered a broken leg, a strained back, and not surprisingly, a mild fear of heights. It's not at all uncommon for someone to receive multiple injuries in an accident. If this is true in your case, you may be examined by more than one doctor during your compulsory medical exam.
Yes, I'm Eric Thomas. I'm here to see Dr. Davidson.
You should know the name of the doctor you're going to see and should not accept a substitute. Seeing a different physician could be a waste of your time and money, with you having to go through the experience yet another time with the right doctor. You should arrive at the medical clinic's reception desk empty-handed, except for any documents your lawyer has approved, such as your list of injuries. Do not bring a notebook into the exam or take notes during the exam. Remember that the doctor might be watching you without your knowing it when you get out of the car in the parking lot or in the waiting room.
Ms. Olson, Dr. Marshall will see you now. Would you come with me, please?
When meeting the CME doctor, keep in mind that you should be pleasant, courteous, and cooperative. Helpful and truthful patients can influence the examiner to be the same. On the other hand, if you appear nervous or impolite, you may raise doubts about your credibility or your motives. Above all, do not try to fake anything. That would certainly be discovered by an experienced physician and could prove devastating to your case. While the exam is being conducted, be alert and attentive to what's going on. Pay attention to what the doctor did, said, asked, dictated into an audio recorder, and so on. After you return to your car, you'll need to jot down some notes on exactly what happened and when. Also note how much time elapsed from the time the doctor actually started the exam to the point in time the exam ended.
Well, I can see by your records that you have little back and knee problems. Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
The first stage of your examination may consist of written or oral questioning. Be helpful and truthful, but use caution because a hastily answered question could be harmful to your case. Don't forget that the doctor has been hired by the defense. Do your best to remember your history, but don't guess if you don't remember. If the defendant's attorney later asks you why you left out a particular part of your medical history when the doctor asked you about it, you can truthfully say you forgot that part of it. But again, don't leave anything out because you think it might hurt your case. Instead, answer the doctor's questions about your medical history in the way your attorney discussed with you before the exam. The doctor is only allowed to inquire about the particulars of your injury and how those injuries are related to the accident. The doctor should not ask you about the specific details of how the accident happened or who caused it. Be certain to speak with your attorney before the CME about how you should respond to questions about how the accident happened.
Boy, those were terrible injuries you sustained. You must have been looking down the road at that accident instead of paying attention to what you were doing. I suppose that made you fall off the ladder.
My attorney advised me not to answer any questions about the accident and how it happened.
Be sure to ask your attorney if there are any irrelevant questions you shouldn't answer or physical or psychological tests that you should refuse to allow, and what you should do or say if asked to do so. Now let's watch as our subjects undergo portions of their compulsory medical exam.
Okay, now what I would like for you to do is stand up and walk at a very leisurely pace over to that far corner, then slowly turn around and walk back. The purpose of that is so that I can observe your gait, the arms swinging at your side, and the way you carry yourself in general when you're walking. So, would you do that for me, please?
Sure.
Good, very good. Okay. Would you have a seat on the table, please? What I'm going to do is I'm going to examine your back. First thing I'm going to do, of course, is loosen your gown. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk my fingers down your back, and if I come to a tender area, please let me know. So I'm going to start walking down now. So you have a tender spot right there.
Yeah.
Is it more tender off to the side or in the middle?
It's more off to the side.
Okay. Well, my goal is not to hurt you, but I'm going to continue walking down your back. It's tender even down in that area.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so what we're going to do now is a spinal examination. So what I need you to do is to sit up nice and tall for me and just relax, and just tell me if you feel any tenderness here.
No, it seems to be all right.
Anything? Okay,
No.
Does it hurt over here? How does that feel? About the same?
It's a little sore up closer to the top.
Okay?
Now what you're going to do is bend over slowly and touch your toes. When you do that, I'm going to examine the alignment of your spine and your back. So can you do that for me, please? Okay. So does that feel tight, or are you having any pain when that happens?
It mainly feels tight.
Tight but no pain?
Yeah.
Okay, you can stand up again.
Okay? Now I'm just going to squeeze your muscles a little bit here, and you just tell me if there's any tenderness, all right? How's that? Is that tender in there?
It's not too bad.
Okay. Now I'm going to go up on this side, and this is where that muscle connects into the base of the scalp. How does that feel?
That hurts. That's sore.
Okay. And now the other side.
Yeah, that hurts.
Okay. All right. Now just put your arms down by your sides, and I want you to shrug for me. Lift up. How does that feel?
It's a little tight.
Okay.
At some point during the exam, the CME doctor should ask you to describe your pain or pains and any limitations on how you're able to move as a result of your injuries. Keep in mind, pain is very subjective. For instance, some people have higher or lower thresholds of pain than others. The doctor might show you a sign or a piece of paper with a sequence of numbers from 1 to 10. Or a series of faces with different expressions, with one end of the scale representing the most severe pain you could imagine experiencing, and the other end representing very slight pain. If the doctor uses this tool, he or she will ask you to point to the number or face on the sign or paper that best represents the level of your pain. Another technique is to use the "it hurts when I do this" approach. Tell the doctor your list of the ways your normal everyday activities have been altered or otherwise affected by the pain. Give the 1 to 10 pain scale serious consideration before your CME. Some people think they have to rate every pain as a 9 or a 10 so that the doctor and the insurance company will understand the injured person's pain. This is a mistake. When a person lists all pains as 9s or 10s, the doctor, as well as the insurance attorney, will most often use this as an indication that the injured person is exaggerating their pain to increase their financial recovery. Exaggerating pain in your CME will not help. Exaggeration is more likely to harm your case. Don't be surprised if you're again asked to rate your pain on a typical day. If you have a typical day, give the doctor your best judgment as to how you rate your pain. But again, if you do not have a typical day, tell that to the doctor. But be prepared to rate your pain or pains for both your good days and your bad days on a scale of 1 to 10. Be aware that there are different types of pain. There are also different words to describe your pain. Before your exam, talk to your attorney about how to accurately describe your pain to the CME doctor. For example, is yours a sharp pain or a shooting pain? Is yours a dull ache like a toothache? Does your pain cause your hand or foot to tingle or feel as if it's asleep? Is your pain focused in a small area, or does your pain cover a larger area? Is yours a pain like an electrical shock, or is it a throbbing or pulsating pain? Since your accident, has your pain increased or moved into other parts of your body? Does your pain radiate into one of your limbs? For example, has your neck pain begun to radiate into your arms? Has your back pain radiated down into your buttocks or leg? Knowing how to accurately describe your pain is an important part of preparing for your CME. Most importantly, be truthful. No one likes the whiners who exaggerate their ills, but on the other hand, do not understate your pain. Some people, especially some men, have learned as they were growing up that they should say they only have a little pain, even when they're experiencing intense pain. That telling other people truthfully how much pain they're in is not appropriate or embarrassing. It will damage your case if you're experiencing intense pain but say it only hurts a little, or if you exaggerate the pain you're experiencing. Your CME doctor should allow you an opportunity to fairly describe your pain, but if the doctor cuts you off or doesn't give you adequate time to explain, don't argue. Just make detailed notes of the discussion when you return to your car. Whether the CME doctor adequately inquired into your pain is definitely the type of information to write in notes after your exam.
Using a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 representing a tiny amount of pain and 10 representing the worst pain you've ever experienced in your life, what number on that scale represents the amount of pain you feel where your neck connects with the base of your skull on a typical day?
Notice here, the patient has now been asked to explain a typical day, that term which we discussed earlier. If you have a typical day and can fairly answer the question, you should do so. But if your pain fluctuates day to day, so there's no typical day, you should be certain to tell this to the doctor. A CME doctor can be intimidating, but you must be sufficiently assertive to protect your legal rights. In your CME, you shouldn't let yourself be intimidated into giving answers that do not accurately describe your injury or pain.
Using a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 representing a tiny amount of pain and 10 representing the worst pain you've ever experienced in your life, what number on that scale represents the amount of pain you feel where your neck connects with the base of your skull on a typical day?
I don't know. I'm not sure how to answer that.
Well, is the pain you're experiencing today pretty typical?
I don't know. I guess so.
So what number on the scale represents the amount of pain you feel today?
A 6, I guess?
So the amount of pain you feel on a typical day is a 6, right?
I guess so.
At this point, the doctor has persuaded Jackie to admit her pain has typical days. Remember, for some people, there is no typical day when it comes to their pain. You might have good pain days and bad pain days. Let's see how Jackie could have better explained the pain she experiences to the doctor.
So, using a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 representing a tiny amount of pain and 10 representing the worst pain you've ever experienced in your life, what number on that scale represents the amount of pain you feel where your neck connects with the base of your skull on a typical day?
I don't know. I'm not sure how to answer that.
Well, is the amount of pain you're experiencing today pretty typical?
No. Some days I have much worse pain than this, and other days I have less pain.
So today is an in-the-middle pain day, so it's pretty typical, right?
Some days are like today, when it hurts to do the things I want to do, like picking up my children to cuddle them, but I fight through the pain. Some days I have only a little pain, and it feels much better, and so I have lots of energy, and I want to do all kinds of things. But some days it hurts so bad that all I can do is lie still in bed for hours.
Now the doctor has a much clearer picture of the pain Jackie experiences on a day-to-day basis. But notice that Jackie twice had to explain that there is no typical day with her pain. She was polite but assertive, and in doing so, she gave a more accurate description of her pain. Maybe the doctor will ask her to give a pain scale number for the good pain days, and another for the really bad pain days, and another for the in-the-middle pain days. Or maybe not.
Okay, now I'm going to check your reflexes a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to check the other side just for comparison. Very good. Now we're going to check the range of motion of your knee. The first part of this is called passive, meaning I do all the work, okay? You just let me do all the work. You just stay as relaxed as you possibly can. There we go. And what we're going to do is get an idea of exactly how stiff or mobile your knee is. Okay? Good. The second part of the exam is called active range of motion, meaning you do the work. And what I'm going to have you do is pretty much the same maneuver I did. If you could just raise your knee up to where it touches my hand. That's it. You seem to have a problem with that. Are you having pain?
Yeah, it kind of hurts a little bit.
Can you move your knee inward? Okay, now outward. Okay, good. All right, you can put it down. So we have a little bit of pain, but the range of motion seems pretty good, almost complete, I'd say.
Okay, now we're just going to test your reflexes, okay? So what I need you to do is just relax. Okay, here we go. Just try and relax, okay? All right. It's not going to hurt, I promise. All right. Good. Okay, other side. Good. Okay. Now, this is the tough one. Just relax your arm for me as much as you can, okay? All right. Good. Other side. Relax. Come on, relax. Very good. Okay. Now, I'm going to put 2 fingers in your hand and I'm going to pull back. But don't let me take my fingers out of your hand, okay?
Okay.
All right, here we go. Hold on. Hang on, hang on. Very good. Other side. Hang on, hang on. Good. Good. Nice job.
Tell you what, I'm going to step out of the room. You can get back into your clothes, and then I'll come back and we can make arrangements for follow-up, okay?
Okay.
All right, good.
As I said, you can expect your CME to be somewhat different due to the nature of your particular injury. Your attorney probably will tell you to call her or him when you get home from your CME so you can tell your attorney what happened. You may be wondering what tests take place during the CME. Usually your attorney will agree to allow you to be examined by a doctor who will have you do range of motion tests and maybe allow x-rays. If the defense wants to obtain urine or blood samples for lab tests, or to hook you to a machine like an ECG or an EEG, or to make you complete a psychological test, the attorneys would have had to agree to do this in advance, and your attorney would have told you to expect this before the exam. Your attorney might instruct you to call her or him immediately if the doctor insists on taking fluid samples or subjecting you to tests other than a routine physical examination. And finally, there's one last but very important piece of advice. Never sign anything during your CME. The doctor should not require your signature on anything, so don't take any chances. Well, that's all there is to the CME. As you can see, there's really nothing complicated about it and nothing to be scared about. Now let's review the major points we've brought up in this program. Try to be relaxed when you go in for your CME. Being well prepared will help you relax. Write a summary of your medical history if necessary, or ask your attorney to help you write a summary before the day of your exam. Also, think about all the ways that your everyday life is different due to your injuries. Have someone help you with this if possible. Don't take any documents or writings into the exam without your attorney's review and approval. Before your CME, talk with your attorney about what to expect in the CME and how to respond to questions the doctor might ask you. Be certain of when and where your exam is scheduled to take place and be on time. Know the name of the doctor you're to see and do not accept a substitute. Remember, the doctor you'll be seeing was chosen by and paid for by the defense. She or he will not be unbiased, so be careful in what you do and say. Do not argue with the doctor. Rather be courteous and cooperative, even when the doctor is not. Be alert and attentive to what goes on during your exam. Make mental notes of what happened and what was said and when things happened. Be cautious answering questions. The doctor should only be concerned with the details of your injuries, not the details of how the accident occurred. Talk to your attorney about how to respond if the doctor asks you about how the accident happened. Be truthful and don't try to fake anything. This is extremely important. Dishonesty is certain to be discovered by an experienced physician, and this will only hurt your case. Don't exaggerate your symptoms, but on the other hand, don't understate your pain either. Know in advance the terms that describe your pain. Be able to describe how frequently you feel pain and how long the pain lasts. Be able to describe how it affects you in your everyday activities. Give thought in advance to whether you have typical days. If you have good pain days and bad pain days, tell the doctor about both kinds of days. After the exam, write down the important details of what happened and when, what the doctor said and what you said. Call your attorney if you're instructed to do so. There, you should now be ready for your compulsory medical exam. Following these simple guidelines, you've done the most you can do. You cannot directly influence whether the CME doctor writes an objective, honest report. The final word on the extent of your injuries will be spoken by a trial judge or a jury of your peers. But you'll almost certainly increase your chances of being fairly compensated for the injuries and pain that you've endured. You deserve it. Good luck.